Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Asshole 2020. Okay, hopefully that works out better, I guess. This wasn't completely connected. Okay, there we go. Well, here we are. We're back where this series began, as it were, in a matter of speaking. The Panzer Dragoon Remake. It's kind of funny looking back on this after kind of thinking about how far it's been since, well, for one, I played through this game before, and I definitely appreciated it, and then of course played the original version, and it's kind of funny all the same, kind of coming back to it from this point of having the entire context of the series behind us at this point. It's kind of funny seeing it with so much detail at this point, with the high definition fidelity. Like, obviously, Orta was pretty good, but Switch, after all, is a thing. Is this a remake or remaster? I think that's kind of one of those things where it's depends on what you think of as a remake or remaster. So, to put it like it's called Panzer Dragoon Remake, but in a sense, it is very much all of the original game, but it's touched up and made more accessible for modern audiences. So the structure is kind of the same. There's still some of those same enemies, but they touched up the graphics. They did a once-over with the soundtrack. And the control, like with the controls, they've done a thing where they gave a twin stick input where how you aim is done with the right stick and the movement of your dragon is done with the left stick. It's something that it makes the game a little bit easier because of that, because you don't always have to move wherever you're aiming, but I think it's a pretty neat option, and in fact I'm gonna make sure I have that set. Let's see, mode, classic, modern, and let's see. Oh yeah, there's gyroscope options. I'm not going to use gyroscope for this. Yeah, it's a bit more colorful, and I think it has some more details to the environment as well, kind of taking advantage of having the more modern hardware. Yeah, it is in many ways, it is very different from the game because of that aesthetic change, but at the same time, again, it's kind of the same. It's kind of a funny thing of, like, you could still get some of that classic challenge by playing it in the classic control mode. In fact, I've actually, tried a little bit of trying to emulate the feel of what it's like in the original game by using this specialty Saturn controller by, I think it was who the heck was it that made this reproduction thing? But it has it can hook to either a thing that goes into the Saturn, or it can hook up to a USB that can go to a Switch or PC. And it was kind of interesting trying it out in that fashion. But yeah. So I think, with that, haven't done enough rambling. Let's start it off with a new game. Yeah, hopefully you'll be having a good time with this as well. Gonna go down normal difficulty. And yeah, and that's another thing for this one, which is that... And we see this redone in, you know, higher graphics. It's honestly kind of amazing to see this after having been used to, like, how the old style ones were. That's fine. Glad to have you along for the ride. They did a really good job of recreating these old cutscenes. I feel like they made them a bit more dynamic too. The old ruins. Filled with slumbering pure type weapons. Hey, Nate. This really has me looking forward to seeing how this Vi remake will turn out, and like, I know they haven't confirmed it yet, but man, seeing the effort that goes into these cutscenes has me thinking it would be awesome to see if they, if this team was also able to remake the stuff from Saga. Sorry, that was the... I guess that was the auto power saving thing. we go. Okay, so yeah, the one thing I was about to say, the one thing that I think is a detriment to this remake, and it's probably because of the specific version I'm playing on, is the load times. And I say it's probably this version because I'm playing this off of my Switch, and it's kind of an unfortunate thing that the Switch can do some amazing things when it's put to work properly, but it's just an unfortunate case that it can take a little longer to load compared to the alternatives. And I know there's a... As I understand, this game, this remake, is also available for Steam and for PS4. And those probably handle a little bit better. But no, but thing is, ultimately, I'm a Switch man, so here we are. And here we go. And one thing immediately comes to mind when thinking about how they did the graphics differently for this is how the level of detail that they put into like all of these buildings. Because I remember in the first game it was mostly seemed to be like walled structures and like all that you were flying through in this area, which were sufficient. But that's kind of one of those things that I think comes from, well, that's about as good of details you can get from what the Saturn could do, especially since that was like a not quite but close to launch Saturn title. So yeah, immediately right away, like, I did think this was really cool, being able to have the aiming reticle be separate from your movement. Just so satisfying. Like, yeah. And I would say they otherwise did a good job of really keeping it very faithful in terms of how it controls to the original. I would say it's somewhat annoying though in terms of like the shooting, because they keep to how it was in the original, where one tap is just one shot from your gun. It's not a burst fire like it was from Zwei and onward. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where obviously part of it is that they were doing very well to take advantage of what new generation hardware can do versus the old, by kind of having a bit more vibrancy and color to things. But I think it's pretty cool, because, yeah, like, there is definitely a difference in aesthetic because of that. And I'm not sure how well you can hear it, but if you listen, you can tell that there's, like, a little bit of a change to how the sound is. It's, I don't think always immediately obvious unless you're really hearing for it, but, like, for one, thing that's kind of obvious is that there's like just, I think, a little bit of a difference of sound. I forget if the original game actually used a full-on orchestra for this first part, but yeah, it's a little bit different, but not bad, I think. I know some people have expressed some dissatisfaction with it, which I can kind of get, but I feel like this redone version of the track ain't bad. I think in a way it feels a bit more stylistically consistent with the rest. It probably helps that the composer Satoru Kobayashi redid the track. As I recall, I forget the name of the original composer, but I remember he passed away, unfortunately. Thankfully, I'm not really hurting for health. Ooh, that took off a chunk. Yeah. All right. Managed to get through that with only one hit. Nice. Yeah, when it comes to the music, I would say, in terms of my personal opinion, when it comes to some of the stuff, I find I prefer some of the orchestrated pieces from the first, but I like some of the others. Hey, Bren. That's fine. But yeah, as I was saying, I like the orchestrated tracks in the original, but when it comes to the stuff that is synthesized or sequenced, I like the how they've been redone for this remake. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of what helps when you have games from a couple generations ago being remade with HD. And I think part of what I find kind of interesting is, besides just the fact that the models were made prettier, it's interesting seeing just how smooth the animations are. I think one thing that I find interesting about some of this is that for some of these desert scenes, they emphasize some of the atmosphere of it by... It feels like they made things look a lot more kind of an orange haze. It kind of reminds me of... I remember seeing a theory that some people had that this planet that this series takes place on might be a terraformed Mars. I know that hasn't been a thing that's ever been confirmed, but it's, I think, a neat idea. Oh yeah, and then we gotta watch out for these duders. Turns out better than the movie. Never watched the movie, but as I understand, it was not a good one. Yeah, this has me thinking about that waterway that we went through in one of the levels in Orda. We had to dodge those worms that were swinging out at us. I hear the big old worms. There you go. Blast away at those acid sprays. It's just really hard to get the trigger going that fast. There he is. I wonder when you'd show up, buddy. Missed. And I can't do math, so okay. That is a solid C+ rating. So 3. Yeah, let's see what you guys are talking about. Yeah. See, more accuracy in one trailer than the entirety of the movie. Ouch. Like, I think that's kind of one of those things that's a shame about some movies, like especially some adaptations of some properties, is when something is turned into, especially for something that's like a beloved and long-running franchise, it's a shame when it's reduced to just, at best, a fun action movie when it could be so much more than that. Oh yeah, and then the thing where we go in and attack a thing at night, though. As it kind of turns out, with this kind of a particular rendition of a level, it's kind of interesting in that it's less you're approaching it twilight or going in through the dark of night, and it's more like you're kind of there at... it feels more like just around sunset. Because I get a feeling that compared to how it was in the Saturn original, was like things are a bit more brightly lit. Like obviously still evening, but yeah. Oh yeah, and then this thing where we gotta fly around and get on. Yeah, this is definitely one of those points where I think the new controls feel they offer just a bit more. Well, I guess I kind of goofed on that one a bit, but still. Got dudes that are going to be dropping bombs on us, as I recall. Yes. I think that's another thing that's... I'm not sure if I would say it's a good change or not, but it's a change, is how they do these little introductions with title cards for the bosses. Like, on one hand, that kind of directness is kind of... it's a bit different from how the rest of the series goes, but I guess it's also kind of a thing where some players might appreciate having a bit more context for what they're fighting. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Another part where it's nice to be able to aim separately from where I'm moving, because otherwise there's a whole lot more restriction on when you can really aim at and attack this dude. Ah, yeah, now he jumps around and shoots missiles at us. Remember you separating like this. Maybe that was just because of how I played in the first one. I just remember that jumping form being how he ended off. Alright. Ah yes, and then it ends with them chasing us off into some ruins. Okay, I know that one's good. Yeah. So yeah, definitely feeling a bit easier. I remember when I played the original game, I had to restart that level, I want to say at least twice. I know the dual stick controls help quite a bit in that regard, but it has me wondering if maybe they balanced it to be a little bit easier and more accessible. Or if that's just me coming back in with the experience of all the games behind me. I do remember this being somewhat easy, but I didn't recall being that bad. Yeah. Might be a little bit of both. Jeez, so many things flying in from out of nowhere. Yeah. Got Imperials coming in and shooting us up, and automated defenses to worry about. Alright. Oh, it's just... I quickly you frickers popped up. So on the note of the aesthetics thing, that has me thinking about how I really do love these redone graphics and everything that they did. But I think it's kind of a shame that they couldn't include like a classic mode or something for the visuals. Kind of like how like when they remade Halo 1. I thought that was really cool how they had the option to switch between the redone visuals and the old ones. Just because it's kind of a nice thing to let people have a look at the old aesthetic, even if ultimately, like, most people in the modern are probably going to want to stick to the high fidelity graphics. Yeah. I see you there. You can't fool me. I know you're gonna wake up and try to beat me, but you ain't. Right, and I gotta shoot you with my pistol. As soon as I'm able to. Gotta wait for your health bar to show up because video games. I think the sparks being destroyed a lot more dramatic. I can. I guess both triggers can be used. It's still hard to really pull off a rapid shot, though. I think this is one of those times where I miss having the Saturn with its 3 shot buttons that I could just roll my fingers across. I could kind of go rapid fire if I time my alternations of the triggers enough, but it's still a bit difficult. I do think it is worth pointing out that there is an automatic fire function. You have to unlock it in the Pandora's box thing. and in order to do that, it's a thing where if you hold down, I think one of the triggers you would hold down, it's just automatic gunfire, while the other trigger does the lock-on arrow of light attack. Right. Oh, okay, alright. Got rid of your annoying armor. I can just arrows of light you. Yeah! Now we get into the fight with the Imperial fleet over the forest. As soon as the level transitions. Oh, we missed 6. Okay, that's not bad. And I would say, I think the forest, is one of the levels that I think benefits the most from the facelift, in really terms, especially given the idea of what you're flying over being like a natural area. Because it's kind of one of those things where I think that was kind of one of the things that is unfortunate about the original Panzer Dragoon, in that it really felt like so much of it was you were just kind of, it felt like you were just over a flat plane most of the time, and maybe you had some environmental stuff that went over that kind of helped to give an idea of a place. But this, like, especially gives the idea of, oh yeah, you're in a, like, in a wilderness here. Especially when it's like you have that really cool kind of a rock bridge formation going on. Like, I look at this and it's like, man, I wish I could take a walk through here. Except I probably wouldn't want to take a walk through here because it's probably filled with so many genetically created monstrosities. But besides that, like, if I could go on a walk here with, say, a dragon buddy who could save me from said genetically engineered monstrosities, I think that would be a good time. You know, in fact, that probably is kind of something that what it feels like for a bunch of, like, fantasy adventure type deals. It's like, man, there are so many majestic sights and vistas and places to explore. It's a shame there's so many things out there that want to kill me. Oh, heck. Right, then these little fritters come along. Where you going? Ah, there you go. Yeah! The dude with all the thingos, the floating generator, whatever you want to call them. I remember having to, like, hit you so many times in this game. Alright, and then you got these shots that are letting you got those spiky mines that will explode. Alright. Have a good night, Brent. He's down. Alright, and then you two come in. Just as you happen. Okay. It's all coming back. And eventually you bring out some big guns. There they are. Then comes the part where you show me your great big old missile barrage. Yeah. Right, aim for that. Maybe that's something that they changed up. Is I remember that, like, that would shoot 5 times, and then there's, like, one missile that was, like, really frustrating to deal with. Maybe that's another thing they changed. Yeah, I'm convinced by this point they made some deliberate decisions to make this game a bit more easier and forgiving on the player. Which, I mean, considering how hard it was to kind of get through the first game, I can understand them wanting to make it a little bit easier. Monsters are coming out of the tower. But yeah, like, I guess that's kind of a thing that makes sense that they made it a bit more accessible to modern players. And it's a thing where it's like, well, if they want a harder difficulty, there is in fact a hard mode that you can unlock. I was actually considering if I should play that because I remembered being able to beat that for the remake at least. I wasn't sure if I wanted to risk that being too hard and taking up too much time. But this has turned out pretty okay though. And now here we are at the Imperial City. And this is kind of another one of those things where it's like, I think it's really cool how they decided to, or really, rather another way to put it, it's one of those things that I'm glad that they remade this with modern graphics. Because you can see all the detail, how this world looks. It's really neat to get a chance to see it like this, especially since, well, you don't really get much of a chance to see it in much of the other games. Like, okay, Orta had that kind of big old complex for it, but it's not the same as this. And it's like, I think the only other time we got to look at what the Imperial capital was like, very briefly at the beginning of Saga before Kramen blew it up. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, this... Compared to how the outskirts and the more wild areas look, even if there's like some danger of being conscripted or whatever, you can see why people might prefer being able to live in a place like this. It's a bit more civilized and developed compared to, you know, caravans that have to brave the wilds full of genetically engineered monsters. It's also neat seeing some of the details, like you can see the greenery growing in the water. They said it was daft to build a city on top of a swamp. Okay, that was weird. I was gonna say, you ain't catching me unawares, but there they go, catching me with freaking... I think that's probably the thing that's hit me the worst, is just those stupid, bridge hits, because it's a bit hard to judge where it wants the flight path to be. Okay. And now, to the final episode. God, that is just such a weird thingy. Like, I'm not even sure what it is. Like, it's clearly important in some degree, but, like, it's kind of creepy and weird. Weird thing poking. Yeah. But yeah, I guess that it's kind of a thing that I think lends well to, like, it's kind of how it is with Panzer Dragoon in general. There is just such this thing of weird ambiguity, and what exactly a thing is isn't always clear, but it's like there's just enough mystery to it to be interesting. Versus the Super Dragon. There's a big honking health bar. Alright, yeah, and he's got those little bits that he sends out. And are still very annoying. Again, got this twin stick control. I'm having a much easier time being able to dodge and shoot. Really does go damn quick. I'm a sharpshooter. But alas, we are not meant to stick with our dragon buddy. See you elsewhere in the timeline, Midgard Stormer. So, that is one tower taken down. And now we see the credits, complete with some, I'd say, some rather nice concept art. GG. Thank you, Hazel. Yeah, a little crabbo. And I'm finding myself realizing that they are probably in fact showing art that was done by the remake team, and because this is different from how the originals, like obviously they're still keeping the general format of the originals credits with showing the imagery and then the who did what. But this is obviously some different art, which has me think this is probably what the remake people did. And it's one thing that I found interesting, which is you might notice from the names that are flashing by. As I recall, the developers for this remake are based in Poland, as I recall. Another thing, like, I know it's just a little detail, but I like how they're kind of doing the outlining and little details with the lines with the dots. It's a nice little touch. But, yeah, it's... I like this remake, and I think I can appreciate it all the better for having played the original and the rest of the series and all that. It's... I don't think there's ever really going to be a full replacement for the original game. Like... As has been pointed out, it has kind of an aesthetic and feel all of its own that I think kind of comes with the hardware that it was produced on. And that's never gonna truly be redone. Short of just doing a straight up, like, emulated port. But... But, oh god, that is cute. But I'm glad that this remake was done nonetheless. Because... like, it's neat seeing it redone and done in this kind of... They do enough that they stay true to the original gameplay for the most part. Like, obviously, as I said, they kind of tone things down a bit, but it's the kind of thing where if some newcomer wanted to say, hey, how do I, what's an avenue into Panzer Dragoon? I think I would feel comfortable with recommending this. Like... maybe waiting on a sale, because I know there's some people who've been kind of leery of the price of it. But it's a good game. Like, it's got a nice, colorful presentation. It's got nice music. Like, I would say when it comes to recommending a first Panzer Dragoon game, I would either say try out this remake or try out Orta if you can. The question is, though, if this was the intended vision that couldn't be achieved because of hardware. That's kind of an interesting thought. Because it's kind of a thing of... like, it's I know there's like so many games that are kind of like they are built around the aesthetics of the limitations that they are made in, and it's kind of a thing where obviously when it comes to the controls, I'm pretty sure they did it well within like what they knew the Saturn's inputs were, which was, you know, D-pad and a few face buttons, and of course the triggers. Whereas this one is very much redesigned around everything that can be done with a modern controller. Because it's, and like when it comes to the thing of the aesthetic, I'm not sure if they would have had as much color as would have been presented here. But it could be possible. It's kind of one of those things where it's difficult to tell. And it's kind of a thing of, I'm trying to think. I don't know if they've asked the opinion of the original guy. I think I heard that, like, the original director of the original Panzer Dragoon mentioned I think he liked the idea of this remake, but I'm not sure if he offered an opinion on like how closely it follows the vision of the original in terms of like, you know, look and sound and all that. But I think it's something that works. I feel like it follows the vision of the original game close enough while giving it just enough of a tweak and a good enough of a new coat of paint to make it fun and interesting. And it has me really excited to try out the Zwei remake whenever that comes out. I remember hearing that last I heard, the Zwei remake will be coming out sometime this year, so I might even play it then, sometime this year. And I really look forward to seeing how they do that, seeing how they redo the environments, seeing how they redo the music. I wouldn't imagine the music it would be too much of a change because it would be the composer redoing her own stuff, so it would probably be more of a quality thing than rearrangement, but who knows? Yeah, I can't blame you for that on that one, Azel. I would say, again, I feel like there's kind of a mix on which ones I think are the best. I feel like both kind of have their own place. Like, it's kind of a thing where, like, I have in fact found myself on Spotify listening to both the original and the remade version of the soundtrack for this game. And both are pretty good. Well. Well, I guess this is where my Panzer Dragoon pilgrimage stops. At least for now. And like I said, you can count on me to play the Zwei remake whenever that comes out. And God willing, if there is like a Saga remake or even just straight up a new Panzer Dragoon, you can bet I'll be giving that a shot. So you should definitely check out Sega 20th Anniversary Remix I listened to. Yeah, I've listened to a little bit of that, and it's definitely pretty good. It's kind of a thing where some of the ones I prefer some of the original, but overall, I'm glad that it exists. Well, I think that'll be where I stop for the night. Not entirely sure what I'll do for Sunday now that I've come to the end for this, but I guess consider it a surprise. So yeah. For now, though, thank you very much for following me on this journey. And, well, yeah. Good night, and I hope to see you guys again. It's been fun.